Hello everybody, Steven here with Cardboard Coalition, and today I figured I'd bring you a how to play of DC deck building game Rivals. This is the Flash versus Reverse Flash. This is the newest one that came out. I'll just point out right now, I obviously have the Kickstarter edition of it. I do believe that I do not have any of the Kickstarter exclusive like cards out or anything like that, or the promo cards, but this is for 2 players, it's ages 15 and up, and I'm not really sure on the time on this one. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into it, and we'll start off with the setup as usual. So how do we get this game set up? Well, the first thing you want to do is you want to have each player choose who they want to be, the Flash or the Reverse Flash. Then what you do is you take the 7 punch cards. You want to take their 7 punch cards for that character. As you can see, Flash is on there. And then you want to take their 3 vulnerabilities. This one's a little harder to tell because it doesn't show Flash all beat up. You give it a quick shuffle. That was probably a horrible shuffle, right? And then those are ready to go. Here, I'll show you these. I got Reverse Flash already set up, but I'll show you these. So there's his vulnerability, obviously it's Reverse Flash, and there's his punch card, obviously Reverse Flash, right? So you give each person the character and their cards. Now, with Rivals, it's kind of like Confrontation if you played that one. You're going to have 3 levels, right? You're going to have 3 levels. So you give them all 3 of those hero cards, and then you go ahead and give them their punch and their vulnerability cards. Once you've done that, it's on to creating the main deck, which is right here. You take all your cards minus your super speed card or super power card, super speed card, and your weakness card. If you've played some of the other DC deck building or the older ones, these are your kit cards. They're usually, the kit cards are orange, but these are super power cards or super speed card. So you take everything beside your super speed and your weakness cards, you shuffle them up, you make the main deck. Once the main deck is made, you create your lineup by putting the 5 cards out. Now I got to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I did it. You put your 5 cards out, and then you go ahead and put out your super speed cards, and you put your weakness cards. In their diagram, they turn them sideways, right? I prefer to have it set up like this. So do as you please. All right. Once that is done, you decide who the first player is, and you can do that by whoever was the last to read a comic book, who's the biggest Flash fan. I mean, you just pick something that's themed, or you can roll a die, right? And then once you figure that out, each player draws up 5 cards, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the game is ready to begin. Now, this game is fun, but fairly simple in how you play. So what you're doing in this game is you're trying to beat your rival, right? You're trying to beat the other character, right? There are 2 ways for this game to end, is by one character to have all 3 of their cards defeated. That means someone's beat all 3 of them, or this deck runs out. It's time to draw a card and there's no cards in this deck. And as you can see, you got a pretty good deck of cards here to start with. But that's how the game ends. It ends instantly if someone's knocked out all of one player's superhero cards, right? Or it ends when the deck runs out. So let's get into how you do this. Well, you do this by taking your hand of cards. And you got some things on here. You have the name of the card. You have a picture, what kind of card it is, the type of card, right? And then you have its special ability. So you have 1 power. Let's see, we got a really bad hand here. We have 2 power that we can spend, right? And then 3 vulnerabilities. All these really do is clog up your deck. So at this point, you can buy a 2 level card, or you could decide to go against your enemy, right? So when you look at these cards, the supervillain, superhero cards, it gives you a price. You have to be able to hit that number or higher to be able to beat this hero. But they can do some stuff about that, and we'll talk about that here in a second. So right now, we don't have enough to buy any cards from the lineup, and we also don't have enough to fight. So Flash's go is done. Flash did nothing in the beginning. So you go ahead and take your cards. I guess we can set these on the other side, right? You go ahead and you put them in the discard and you draw a new hand of 5. Well, I know there are 5 cards because you only start with 10. So now Flash has a pretty good hand to start with. Then play goes to the next character. This character flips over their cards and they kind of play them out and they decide what they want to do. They are either going to use their power to attack or they're going to use their power to buy. Once again, they only have 3 power. They're not going to be able to beat this superhero, so they would buy a card from here. Now, all these cards in the lineup are all too expensive except for your speed card over here. So they could go ahead and buy that card if they want and go ahead and close that up, put it into their discard. All these cards go into their discard, and then they draw a new hand, and it goes back to the first player. And you go back and forth like this. So there are 2 things that you're going to do when you play your cards. You're either going to attack your opponent to try to beat the number on their card, or you're going to buy a card from the lineup if you can. Weakness cards are only given through card effects. You can't buy weakness cards in the hand into someone. You'll have card effects that give you weakness cards. So let's go ahead and look at some of these cards really quick so you guys understand how they work. So the hero and the supervillain are kind of the same. You have the picture, you have the name and the type of card, right? You have special abilities. This one is pay 1 less to buy your first speedster card on each turn. There are going to be keywords. Let's find one. Speedster right here on cards. So it's saying you can buy a card that has that. Now your abilities change as you get beat up. You get kind of more powerful, right? And your abilities on these change. So your villain cards are pretty much the same. Then when you get to the card you can buy, as we talked about, we have our super speed cards. These are like your kicks if you played the older games. You have your weakness cards. You've had weaknesses before. There is a bit of a difference there, and we'll talk about as we go through the cards. And then you have different types of cards. You have superhero, or you have hero cards, not superhero. You have hero cards. They're blue. You have equipment that are gray. You have villains that are red. You have superpowers that are orange. And then you have the locations, which are pink, black with a pink border. Now you also, here we can look at one of these cards really quick and then we'll go into some of this stuff. So you have your picture, your type of card. You have what you get with that card. So this one would give you +2 power. Then you have this right here. If you control a superpower. Now what you control are the cards that you've played, literally put down on the table to play, and any ongoing cards that you have. A lot of locations have ongoing. Those are your controlled cards. Cards in your hand that you're holding, cards in your discard, and cards in your draw stack you do not control. You only control cards that you've put down for that play and any ongoing cards. So what this is saying is if you control a superpower, remember the orange card, you can do an attack. So there's a keyword you can attack. Each foe gains a weakness. There's a way that you get weakness. So this is how they work. There's keywords. Now you're going to have some defense can only be used to avoid an attack. So whenever you see a defense, you could use it to avoid an attack. Speedster is a new special kind of card type or terminology, I guess, for this game. And what it means is if a card has allowed you to draw an extra card, then you can use the Speedster effect. You also have block. This is when someone's attacking your character directly, your superhero, you can do a block, right? You can do block. It tells you how much you block for, and you also get to do something else, where there's the draw a card. All right, and then we have, like I said, with the locations, ongoing. If you get one of these cards, when you first buy it, it goes to your discard, but once it comes out of your hand, you play it over to the side, and this card's there until an effect gets rid of the card. Sorry, cartoon's getting all riled up again. So that is ongoing. It means the card, once it is in your hand, you play it out like that. Now there's one other card. Why I thought I had put one out, but let's see if we can pull one really quick. And there we go. You have this too. You have confrontation. This means you can get this special thing Confrontation and Speedster, so this has two setups, but if you have just the Confrontation, that means it's used when you're attacking someone. So you can use that special Confrontation ability. And remember, your blocks are used when someone's specifically attacking your hero. Attack is for attacking. Attack is a special ability that happens, like this one's Give a Weakness. And remember, to stop that, you could play a discard or a defense card. And how you do that is you just discard it. Same with the block. If someone's attacking you, they call it out, they show the cards they're going to attack with. If you had this in your hand, you could say, I'm going to block. I get a block. It bumps him up to 13 instead of 9. He would discard that card, and he gets to draw a card from his draw. So those are the terms and how they work. The one thing that's kind of new with this one too, and I believe there's another one that does this too, one of the newer games, you have an ongoing with the weakness. Weakness used to just clog up your deck, and at the end it's worth -1, but this has ongoing. So when you get a weakness put on you, it goes out. And what this weakness does specifically for this game is it negates one of your points. So your attack, if Flash was going to attack Reverse Flash right now, instead of being 9, he'd be subtract 1 point. He would be 8 points to knock out that card. Once this card gets knocked out, any weaknesses that are put out get put away, right? Go back to the weakness deck, right? You also have one area on here it doesn't really show. You have a destroyed card area right here, and because there's going to be abilities that allow you to destroy cards, and there's going to be abilities that allow you to draw from the destroyed card pile. So just keep that in mind. So as I said, you go back and forth. You either attack the other hero or you buy a card to build up your hand. And the game ends if one hero has all of their cards taken out. Now, once you defeat a hero, you get their card. And the reason you do that is because there's points at the bottom. And there's points for a reason. All the cards except for the starter cards actually have points at the bottom. So the two ways to win is if you beat your opponent, if you've destroyed all their cards, hands down you win. If you didn't destroy the cards and the game ends because you run out of cards to draw, the deck is gone, there's no cards here and you need to draw a card to fill up the lineup, you would go ahead and end the game. At that point, you add up points and whoever has the highest points win. So that's why if the Reverse Flash beats a Flash card, that goes over here to the Reverse Flash side so they can get the points. So the two ways that the game ends is beating the opponent or this deck being gone. If you need to draw a card from this deck and you can't, then it's gone. Now, the lucky thing about that is when you buy a card from up here, if you buy a card, you do not fill this in until the end of your turn. At the end of your turn, you go ahead and fill in any extra spots. You do not fill in cards as soon as you pull a card. So that can give you some time there too. But that is basically how you play DC deck building game Rivals, right? This is the Flash and the Reverse Flash, so there are a couple extra things. Remember, this was the Kickstarter edition. But for the most part, you can apply this to almost all the DC deck building games. Some of them have some new different mechanics, right? And also, all these cards in here can be played with all the other ones. And like I said, there's a DC deck building big game that's called Confrontations, which is basically Rivals on a larger scale. So that is how to play. I hope you guys enjoyed. I'm Steven with Cardboard Coalition. I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.